Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Community TV special. The week of October 7th through October 13th has been declared Operator Recognition Week in Texas. And we want to take advantage of this opportunity to recognize the importance of operators and to highlight the services they provide to our community. And to discuss this event with us, we invited Mrs. Kay Qualls, Area Manager, Operator Services, Southwestern Bell, Mr. Derek Fruget, Operator, Southwestern Bell, and to my right, Mr. Don Barton, District Manager, Operator Services, Southwestern Bell, and Ms. Sandy Hoekstra, Operator Services, Southwestern Bell. Sandy, I hope I got your name right.
Yes.
Good. Let me first go to Mr. Barton. And Mr. Barton, we would like for you to please tell our viewers a little bit about Operator Recognition Week.
Well, Mohsen, Operator Recognition Week began 3 years ago when Bill Clements, who was then Governor of Texas, declared the first full week in October as Operator Recognition Week. And the purpose, as you have indicated, was to express appreciation and to recognize the hundreds of men and women across the state of Texas that serve both the telephone company and the public as telephone operators, directory assistance operators, as well as long-distance operators. Mm-hmm. So this is the third year now that we have had Operator Recognition Week, and many of the cities across the state of Texas have picked this up. Mayor Cockrell here in San Antonio will be issuing a proclamation declaring October the 7th through the 13th as Operator Recognition Week in San Antonio. And we think that's very appropriate. We're a little biased, but we really do believe that the best operators in Texas are right here in San Antonio.
Well, you very well deserve it. Tell me, are you planning any type of activities during this week? Are you having any open houses you want to tell our viewers about?
Yes, we have a number of activities planned throughout the week. We have open houses in our two operator services centers located at Broadway. Mm-hmm. And those open houses will be on Wednesday, I believe, isn't that right, Kay, of that week. And the public is invited, as well as the employees, families, and friends of the company, and so forth.
Well, that must be interesting. And now, Mr. Barton, let me take you a little bit back in time, and I would like for you, if you don't mind, telling us a little bit of the background history of Operator Services since divestiture. What has happened? A lot of changes have taken place.
Yes, that's true, and I think a lot of folks are confused as to who operators work for, what companies they work for, and so forth. There have been telephone operators, of course, back since the beginning of the telephone industry almost. But in 1984, as most people know, the telephone company was broken up into the AT&T company and the 7 regional Bell operating companies, of which our company, Southwestern Bell, is one of those 7. At that time, the regional companies retained the directory assistance operators, the information operators, if you will. Well, the long-distance operators went to AT&T. Under the terms of that agreement, the telephone company then could, within a certain period, bring back those long-distance operators and get back into that business if they chose to do so. Southwestern Bell did decide to get back into the long-distance operator business, and in 1987 we brought back the toll and assistance operators into Southwestern Bell. So today, if you dial 0 or O for operator, you reach a Southwestern Bell operator who can then transfer you to the inter-exchange carrier of your choice. And of course, 1411 or 555-1212, the dialing code for directory assistance, you reach a Southwestern Bell directory assistance operator.
Well, thank you for the information. Now, let me go to Mrs. Qualls. And Mrs. Qualls, tell us a little bit as how, like, a directory assistance unit is operated.
Well, really, there's 2 different phases of a directory assistance unit. There's that you see when you walk into the OSC, or the Operator Service Center. You see clusters of switchboards. It's not, as you've seen on TV before, one long straight switchboard with a bunch of plugs and, you know, the real heavy headsets. It's very ultra modern, but, you know, lightweight headsets. The switchboards have a kind of like your home computer, a viewer and a computer keyboard. The operator does plug in order to access the equipment, but that's all the plugs that they really have. On directory assistance, it's all by computer database. It's not, you know, it's not paper directories that they're using. Behind the scenes of that, it's a lot of people and sophisticated history gathering to know, you know, approximately how many calls are going to be handled, so that we can schedule the operators who are on duty 24 hours a day. So you have to have some way of knowing how many you need there at each time. In my particular unit, I have 125 people in my unit. 111 of those are operators, and the other 14 are support people, clerical people and supervisory people.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much. Mr. Fruget, what type of calls do you usually handle?
I handle such calls like any calls that you would say.
Directory assistance type thing?
Yes.
You're in the 1411 unit, right?
Yes, I do handle
So that's
calls.
what's called the directory assistance unit.
Yes.
Okay.
We do handle calls anywhere in the 512 area code. These would include your residence, your business, and government listings. Such as Mr. Barton said, these are your 1411 calls and your 512, 555, 1212 calls.
So we come to you when we need a telephone number?
Yes, any number, or when you want to find an address. Yes.
And about how many people do you assist today, approximately?
Approximately about 1,200.
1,200 calls you get a day?
Yes.
Wow. That's interesting. They keep you busy.
Oh, yes, very busy.
Yeah. Sandy, and what type of calls do you handle?
I handle local assistance and long-distance calls within my area.
Did you say you handle local assistance?
Yes.
So you practically do the same thing he does?
No, we can help you place a local call if you're having trouble.
Okay.
Dial a local number. We can dial a long-distance call within our area. Those are collectors, credit card, bill-to-third numbers. We can verify numbers for conversation, interrupt on an emergency. I transfer to inter-exchange carriers. And kind of like a help button on your computer. If they're having trouble, they can call us. If they need to reach the business office, we can help them with that. Or repair service, we can help them with that.
Okay. And about how many calls a day do you handle approximately?
We handle about 950.
950 calls a day?
Yes.
Okay, so we reach Derek when we dial 1411, and we reach you when we dial 0.
Right.
Derek will assist us like getting telephone numbers, and you assist us in directing our calls.
Actually placing the call, yes.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Mrs. Qualls, those are staggering numbers. And do you keep any statistics of all the calls you get into your office?
We do know the numbers of calls that not only come into our office, but the numbers to each operator and those that come into the district itself. And when I say the district, there's 4 directory assistance offices or 3 tolling assistance offices for a district.
And yesterday, when I was talking to you, you mentioned like you get almost 370 million calls a year?
In the state of Texas, the tolling assistance operators and the directory assistance operators combined handle more than 377,000. I'm sorry, 377 million requests
a year
in the state of Texas.
They must keep you busy.
Yes, they do.
I bet. Well, Mr. Barton, how much is all of this costing us, the community, the people?
Well, for directory assistance, the charge for a directory assistance call is 30 cents a call after 3 free calls a month. Okay,
so we have 3 initial free calls, and any calls thereafter we're charged 30 cents per call.
And the 3 freebies are for those calls that that are not in the directory that you really have to call the operator. To call the O-level operator, there's no charge unless she places a long distance call for you. Of course.
That's interesting. Now, one thing that I have noticed about your personnel and your operators, they're getting, how should I put this, a little bit more personable. In the old days, like, they used to rush you through, but now when you call either 1411 or when you dial O, you have like some type of a smiley voice behind that line, and they're getting very personable. They say their name, they always thank you, and I tend to like that. Tell us why. Is this like a new direction for operator services to be more customer-oriented type thing? Or?
Well, it is, and I'm delighted that you've noticed it, and I hope the public in general has noticed that, because we are trying to give better service. You know, in the past, we've almost tried to discourage people from calling directory assistance and suggested that the number was in the book and, look it up. But now we really want people to call us. With the 377 million customer contacts that we have in the year in Texas, we think that's a real opportunity to help the image of Southwestern Bell in general and to help the public. And we really are emphasizing customer service. As a matter of fact, I brought along with me a copy of our organization chart, which we've adopted for Operator Recognition Week this year. And unlike most organization charts of most big companies that start with the president at the top and go on down through the various levels down to the bottom of the pyramid, as you can see, our organization chart starts with the customer at the top, and we really feel like that's where the top of our organization begins, because without customers, we wouldn't have a job. Right below the customer is the operator, because they're the people that serve the customer, and they're the ones that have the contact with the customer, and that's the reason that we're trying to recognize them and express our appreciation during Operator Recognition Week. And all the other layers that include Kay and myself are there to support the operators in helping the customer.
That's interesting. Well, you have a heck of a job, I can tell you, because you're practically the mirror to your organization, to Southwestern Bell.
Well, we do. We have the most contacts of any organization in the company.
Your guys are in the front line, practically.
Certainly true.
That's true, and they do reflect on your organization. Mrs. Qualls, now in order for your operators to provide all these services, I'm sure you have some type of a training. Tell us about the training you provide.
Okay, the training is quite extensive. Because of the nature of the operator's job, they need to be ready to handle any situation and to be able to react quickly, to be knowledgeable about how to place the call or how to find the number or whatever the situation may be. Therefore, we spend 2 to 3 weeks with both the tolling assistance operators or the directory assistance operators in mainly classroom training as well as some switchboard training. That's followed up with very close follow-up while they're at the switchboard, and as they progress, that supervision is lessened a little bit.
I see.
It takes about 6 months for an operator to become what we consider experienced operator. Not only that, they have certain standards that we expect them to be able to meet in order to meet the criteria of being able to serve the customer, in the ways of accuracy and efficiency as well as in courtesy.
So would you call it like a hands-on type training thing? Do you put them in contact with the customer soon after they're trained?
Yes. In fact, during the training, they get some customer contact, and then later, full,
well, it's a pretty difficult
contact.
job. When I visited your unit, I was amazed at the computer terminals you had. A lot of us probably imagine an operator is just sitting there waiting for a call and then they flip through a book, but it wasn't really that. I mean, these people are actually not only computer operators, but also they provide another kind of service.
Well, I was supposed to say, they're very busy. They run an occupancy rate of 92 to 95% of the time. So the time that they are seated there at the switchboard, they're busy. They are not out on a coffee break or doing anything. They're really doing their very best to provide service for the customer.
Mohsen, excuse me for interrupting you,
Please.
one analogy that I have liked to use is, like in Derek's case, he handles 1,200 calls a day. That's equivalent to taking an order, if you can use the analogy of a manufacturing line, taking a customer's order, manufacturing a product to their unique specifications, and delivering that to the customer about every 20 seconds.
Wow.
So it's a production line kind of job. It moves pretty fast. We do emphasize speed, of course, because there's a lot of customers out there that we're trying to serve, but we want to serve them one at a time.
Mrs. Qualls, you expect these operators to deliver actually a number, an address, and a zip code in 20 seconds?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes. Depending on the circumstances, there may be calls that might take several minutes. If the circumstances are unique, and that's the particular need of that customer. Many calls are very what the operator would consider routine, calls for taxi cabs and all sorts of things that take just very few seconds with the speed of the equipment and their training and their expertise and knowledge in retrieving listings.
Interesting, interesting. Now, Sandy, how long have you been on your job?
I've been an operator for 14 years.
14 years.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences as an operator?
Well, like I said, I place calls, and sometimes I handle emergencies for people, and we talk to...
Is there anything that comes to mind during all these 14 years? Tell us a little bit about your experiences.
Well...
Tell us about some events, some special things that took place.
I got an emergency call from a girl who was hiding under her bed. Someone was trying to break into her house, so I had to get the police there.
And she just happened to call 1411?
No, she called
zero.
Yes.
Okay, and she did not dial 911?
No, sometimes in emergencies people...
Zero is much easier than 911.
Than 911.
I don't think you would like to encourage people to dial zero, do you?
Well, if they need to, we're there.
In case of emergencies, they should dial really 911.
Yes, they should dial 911.
But in this case, this customer dialed zero.
When you're nervous, operator comes to mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a slogan that we used several years ago that I thought fit what Sandy's talking about, where we said that operators are closer than your next door neighbor. And it is true that operators are there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and they come to work in all kinds of weather, and the pretty days when they'd rather be out doing something else, they're there to help the customer, and those few days that we have where we have an ice storm in San Antonio, most of them come to work.
Yeah. You know, one thing I forgot to mention, y'all are, like, you operate 24 hours a day?
Yes, yeah, we have operators on duty, both directory assistants and tolling assistants, 24 hours a day, every day of the year, including Christmas, Mother's Day. Those are all big days for us.
Hey, you have a heck of a job. Sandy, when I was talking to you, you told me about the guy that his car was on fire. He called operator.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, I just got a call, and she goes, "Please get me to the fire department. My car has caught fire, and it's right next to my house."
Oh, boy.
So there was a danger of it spreading to their house.
And how about, you mentioned something about a little kid trying to get you to help him with his homework?
Yes, we get a lot of calls from children. And sometimes they want us to help with their homework, or maybe they can't find their mother in the house, and they call the operator. Sometimes they're just learning to use how to use the phone. Those are real nice, because
that should break your monotony. Like,
yes,
you know,
and they try so hard to be adult when they're placing their first call, which is really nice.
Interesting, interesting. Now, Derek, you tell us a little bit about the nature of the calls that you get.
Well, such as like the nature of the calls.
Some funny ones.
Some funny ones. We don't get your everyday, ordinary name and address listings all the time. We do get your unusual calls, such as, like just yesterday, I had a call this man wanted to know how the weather was in Quebec.
In Quebec?
Yeah, in Quebec. And we're in San Antonio, and I had to explain that to him.
What did you have? I mean, Quebec, you don't know what the weather is like in Quebec.
Not at all. I suggested it was cold.
That's interesting.
Another call, such as like, guy wanted to know how the fishing was in the Gulf. I told him like I was there about 3 or 4 months ago. I told him how it was then. But I did select, advise him for a fishing guide there down in Corpus Christi. And, that was about the best help I could get for him.
So your job is not boring by any means.
Oh, no, it's a new, it's a new experience just about every call.
Every other minute is a new experience.
A variety of a lot of different things.
That's interesting. That's interesting. It must be something nice to do.
Yes.
Mr. Barton, in the statement of purpose of your corporation, I noticed there is a lot of stress on community services. And in my personal activities, I noticed that there is a lot of interaction between Southwestern Bell and the community organized groups in San Antonio. Why is that?
Mohsen, it's because of several reasons. One is we think that this is one of our responsibilities as a corporate citizen, to be involved in the community, to help with the community. In addition to that, we're one of the larger employers in San Antonio, and we have employees that are involved in virtually every activity you can think of, from the PTA, the school board, to serving on various civic clubs and that sort of thing. So many of them are looking for opportunities to get involved on the personal level. Our company encourages this and supports this. We give employees time to do those sorts of things, although much of their volunteer work is done on their own time. We have an organization within the telephone company called the Pioneers that is dedicated to community-type activities, such things as cleaning up the highway, sponsoring social events for old folks' homes, and working with the school children, various kinds of things. We have also within our company what we call community relations teams that are dedicated to working with the civic groups in the city. We even have internal competition within the cities in our corporation, where we compete for awards for community relations activities. And in the last 3 years, maybe longer, but the last 3 years that I'm aware of, the San Antonio Community Relations Team, in competition with St. Louis and Dallas and Houston and other major cities around our company, has scored #1, and we're real proud of that too.
Oh, so San Antonio really fares well.
Yeah,
huh?
San Antonio has a lot of dedicated people.
Yeah. You know, another thing that comes to mind along this line is the president of the Texas division has been putting a lot of stress on education in Texas. And why do you think is that?
Well, he is serving on a task force to sponsor to encourage the improvement of education in Texas. It's one thing that we recognize as a company that we need. We need a continuing pool of new employees that are educated to be able to do the kind of jobs that we need.
Well,
and we think that it's an essential part of the total infrastructure of our society.
that's interesting. Well, thank you. While we're talking about community services, Mrs. Qualls, when I visited your unit, I actually noticed there was a can on the side, and it had a name of an elementary school, and you were collecting cans for this school. I also saw in another room where you had like a big bin, and you were collecting clothes for the women's shelter. Why is that?
Because our employees are sisters, mothers, brothers, you know, they're family people. They understand the needs of people. They are concerned about their fellow man, and so they do what they can to help. And there are many, many things that the operators sponsor. Like you said, the clothing for the children's shelter. They're very active in supporting the things that the community relations team sponsor, as well as being involved in their own schools and little leagues and Pop Warner and those types of things.
That's interesting. You know, also another thing that I noticed was the nice, and I was really impressed with the nice, quiet atmosphere and the upbeat type attitude of your employees. Do you foster that type of environment? Do you work hard at it, or does it just come natural with operator services?
No, it's something that Operator Services has really been working very diligently at. One, providing the working environment, the quiet environment. Many people think, well, the operator's job is very easy. It is easy from the aspect that it's not manual labor as it would be out digging a ditch or, climbing a pole or something of that nature. But all the brain power that it takes, it is not easy. They must be really on their toes, as we said earlier, handling a call in less than 20 seconds. They really have to be concentrating, and you cannot have the distractions.
I see.
And so.
And what do you call that type of setting?
Ergonomics.
Ergonomics.
Where everything in the workplace is for the health and the welfare of the employee, to be able to do a good job, as well as to provide the environment that is also good for their health.
That's interesting. Well, thank you very much. Now, let me go to Derek. And Derek, tell me a little bit about what type of information do we have, like educate us, in other words. What type of information do we have to provide you when we dial 1411?
Well, to start off, Mohsen, we would like, for starters, we would like the name and the city which you are trying to reach.
Oh, we have to provide you with the city? We have to tell you where are we at?
Yes, the city in the 512 area code.
Okay, and we have to provide you with a name?
Yes. We would like very much so.
Do you need an address?
Yes, we would very much so like an address.
Okay.
That would make it more efficient and more convenient to us to look up that listing and to have it as fast as possible to your convenience.
And that would help you expedite our calls?
Yes, it would.
Well, I hope we all heed that advice and listen to you. Now, Sandy, what type of advice do you have for our viewers? What do we have to provide you with in order for you to expedite our calls?
The number you want to call and what type of call really you'd like to place.
Okay, the number, I'm sorry?
The number that you would like to call.
Oh, so we have to provide you with a number, actually?
Right.
Okay.
I can connect to directory or give you a number to call for directory.
Okay.
But if you have the number, we could place it, and the type of call is collect or credit card, and or if you want us to interrupt it, or just if you're having trouble trying to.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Now, Mr. Barton, we don't really have much time left, but I would like for you to give us like a little wrap-up. What is your vision and your long-term goals for Operator Services in a nutshell?
Well, as we talked about earlier, Mohsen, we want to be a customer service oriented organization, and we're working very hard to give the customers the kind of service that they want today. We know that there are other kinds of services out there that customers want that we can provide, and with new equipment and new technology, as well as a relaxing of some of the regulatory restraints that we're under, we have some new services that we plan to provide customers.
Such as?
Well, an example would be like directory assistance call completion, which we plan to introduce in San Antonio next year. This will be a system where once a customer gets a number from directory assistance, they can key in information using a touch-tone phone, and that number would automatically be connected to, they would be connected to that
I'm
number.
sorry, Mr. Barton, we're practically out of time, and I want to take some time to thank you all for being with us here tonight. And on behalf of our viewers, I want to congratulate you on a good job that you've been doing, and congratulations on your very well-deserved Operator Recognition Week. And ladies and gentlemen, join us next week for another edition of the Middle East Monitor. Thank you for watching.